Guys, all the entries we have been waiting for are here as we speak. I've just entered Bitfunded trading entries. I've just entered a bunch of long-term bots that are going to accumulate these ranges over here. For me, again, it's quite important. We spoke about the pullback, right? We spoke about being patient for the pullback and being on the right side of things when we are buying. When our confidence will rise is when there's redness into hot, beautiful zones. In the show, I am actually buying right now. I'm showing you what I'm buying. I'm showing you what Bitfunded challenge I am currently taking, as well as what tokens I am trading for the Bitfunded challenge, as well as the whole game plan of why am I doing Bitfunded entries right now. For me, $1,000 gets me $500,000 of buying power. $1,000 gets me $500,000 of buying power. I'm tired of losing my own money. So I'm going to show you guys entries, exact stop losses, what are my plans, and what tokens am I buying. I have released thousands of dollars into bots this morning, and they are long-term bots, low leverage bots with stop losses, right? So no liquidations in play on these bots. I'm going to show you that in this time of things chopping around, can be very hard to manually trade these things and mentally stay stable. Let's take a bot and let the bot do all the work for us. If the market wants to do this, let the bot take profits, let it accumulate, but ultimately keep me in the game and keep my emotions nice and calm. I also want to show you guys a bunch of important trends to get ready for the leverage trades to be taken. I told you guys yesterday, we're around 2 days away from leverage trades coming into play. I want to give you guys all of the setups that when that trend line breaks, then I'm manually trading my leverage accounts. But ultimately, this is what I've been waiting for. This is when I'm interested in the market, and this is where I'm playing the game. So we have a alpha pack show today of a lot of real life trades, okay, as well as all the setups and making sure that all your charts are ready and updated. And again, just keeping you with structure, not being afraid of red anymore, not being excited about green anymore, but really knowing what are you going to do with whatever this market is going to bring us. The goal here is this market wants to chop for this year, we financially get to the goals that we want. If it's a bull market in alt season, we get to the goal that we want. And if it's a bear market, we get to the goal that we want. So do me a favor, make this the highest like video that I've seen in a long time. I am giving away 5 Bitfunded challenges today, okay, in this over here, but I need the likes to fly through the roof. So guys, if you're pumped, let's go.
I try and help everyone in my space, and this is what I get. I try and fight the devils, but inside I'm just like 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Welcome to Sheldon Show.
Yes, fam, brand new channel, hit the subscribe button, get the likes up, fly them. Let's get in, let's protect the community. And what I mean by that is, let's just be this place that is positive in a world full of negative. Last year happened, the year before happened, the bull runs happened. We're sitting here today, we're still around, and we got to keep going and keep pushing through and no longer relying on the market to make us rich, right? If it's to the downside, we got to make money, we got to play that, right? If it's a choppy market, we got to play that. And if it's obviously a raging bull, we have to play that. But this should stop us from thinking that we can't financially retire or financially get to our goals just because of the market conditions, right? We have to play those conditions in all different ways. And that's why I told you guys, I actually think it's a hard pill to swallow, but I think it's good that we're not doing 4-year cycles anymore, right? That the market's not doing what it always did for multiple times. It finally gets us to really look at, you know, how we can make money in all different conditions, right? It's made us emotionally strong. Remember, every bit of money that's been lost, every bit of money that's been won, these are all lessons, these are all things that grow you, and these are ultimately all the things that are going to get you experience-wise to the goals that you have been waiting for. So first thing that I want to remind you, right, is you need to join Sniper Club and you need to join a community, right? There's a lot of exciting things that are happening there. They are live trading every single day. There's a community that's ripping over there. It's over 1,400 people inside of that group. You get an opportunity to be a part of that, and it costs you nothing, right? This is what's going to keep you growing, keep your knowledge growing, keep your emotions level, and always have someone beside you when you need that inspiration. Link is right below in the description. Go and join it today. You get put in a waiting list for 24 hours. You then get accepted, you get put through. Let's go show you this over here. Okay, here it is. Join it, join it, join it, because a lot of exciting things are happening, including this over here, where I am going to take 2,000 of you, okay, and we are going to do a 7-day Bitfunder challenge with me off of the shows, completely in our own thing. And I want to show you guys how we can pass Bitfunder challenges, because for me, let's use less of our money, right? But let's have the power of a lot of money. And let's use a tool that I think is one of the most powerful tools in 2026, specifically when it comes to protecting capital. You're going to find all of that in Sniper Club. Now, let's go. Let's pass Bitfunder. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so let's go through a couple of things. Let's go through where the market's at. We spoke about not chasing. We spoke about a disbelief pump, right? I spoke about this yesterday. Disbelief is that fake little pump. Let me share my screen. There we go. Is that little fake pump that kind of gets a little bit of hope. Not many trust it. And then it does actually dump after that. And it kind of gets people to think, oh, you see, I was right. You know, this is not true type of thing. Okay. And then you got to be very careful, because this is kind of where the market traps, right? Right now, who feels on top of the world, right? Bears. Bears feel like they are killing it and they are kings right now, as well as those who have shorted the market, right? If I look at any content creators, the ones that are loudest right now are the bears, right? I knew it, told you it was going to drop. I told you this, my shorts are printing, all these type of things. So we're starting to get bears to get into the green emotions, right? Now, again, it doesn't matter which way the market's going. You're always going to have two different categories, right? You're going to have the one category that's making money, okay, and the one category that's losing money, right? And ultimately, those who are making money, that group will kind of grow when the market's going in a certain direction, and those who are losing will kind of go down. But the same emotions will come out, right? If they've been shorting, told you, bear market, told you be bearish, told you this, right? They start to go into the green emotions. They're starting to go to that arrogance emotions, right? And we've all been there. We've all been there in times when the markets are bull, arrogance. I even put my damn name on the line to say if there wasn't a bull market, I'm going to quit forever. Stupid, right? This is me being ego, King Kong. I'm great. But you got to remember that that's currently what's happening to one part of the market. So the disbelief pump is to basically give them a little bit more fuel, right? Yes, you are right. Yes, you are right, right? And that's what basically gets people to over leverage to the downside, right? To overcommit to the downside, to really have this arrogant, I know what is happening, okay? And that for me is why the disbelief is a little trap. And that's why I said, we don't buy the disbelief, we buy the entries into the hope, right? The main thing that we had to pay attention to was we just had to pay attention to break of structure, right? Well, we're starting to break structure. And I told you guys the first big thing for me was getting the higher highs into play. Now, because we have a ton of arrogant shorters that are all shorting this level over here, that all have stop losses over here, okay? But let's speak about arrogance. A lot of them don't have stop losses, right? So they don't have stop losses. Why? Because they're so great, right? They're so amazing. Like they know everything, right? So some of them have stop losses. Where would the shorter stop losses be right now? It will be over there, right? The second one is those that don't have stop losses. Where's the liquidation sitting? Over there, right? And that lines up that once we get through this level, there's a nice strong push to the upside, right? That's going to go hunt down a bunch of those that don't have stop losses, right? That don't have basically the arrogant ones, and it's going to wipe them out, right? Same reason why every time we have started pumps, the market has Satcha, right? When the shorters were shorting over here, you see, I was right. Comes up again, it's fake, short again. I don't need a stop loss. When it breaks, right? It goes and hunts and destroys every single one of them very, very, very quick, okay? But you got to realize that nice little relief or disbelief pump, right, basically looks something like this, right? Where we have this pump up, traps them down, and then really starts to wake up. But we must not forget the wall that is being formed, the wall where we are going to make money. Right? The main thing is, again, is no more chasing this side of, we basically want to be looking at buying this side over here, right? Pullbacks, these type of things. So again, psychologically, where the market's at, for me, it's very much in disbelief. Okay, it's very much weighted on one side of the market. Okay, they're starting to get arrogant, and what that is doing is creating opportunity for us, because once we are through disbelief, we're looking at going into hope, right? It's very likely going to be a stronger move to the upside for two reasons. The first one is to wipe out the arrogant ones, right? And the second reason is to get people to come back in, right? So crypto has this brilliant reputation, right, of bringing in 1 million people, wrecking 90% of them, okay? But then just before you think it's going to die and go to zero, it has another rally up and gets many people to come back. And it's probably not the same people. It's probably a new bunch of people, right? So just before you think it's over, right, crypto always has this way. You guys drink matcha, by the way. I drink matcha. Stuff's like quite cool, quite good. But nonetheless, just before you think it's kind of over, this is when the market kind of catches and rips and kind of thing. So we have to pay attention to that. On the other side of that too, it's also important not to get too arrogant in a specific thesis, right? So I got a thesis here, I got levels and these type of things. I still got to play it pretty cool, right? Which means that everything that I'm basically looking at levels now that I'm pretty confident we're going to bounce in, right? I still got to give myself room and make sure that I'm not going too much into the risk category of, you know, if it goes wrong, I'm wrecked, right? Type of thing. I always got to play into the scenario to be like, okay, you know, how long could this phase possibly happen? Could we do something like this? Yes. Could we do something like this? Yes. Right? Could we do something like this? Yes. Right? So either scenario basically comes into play. The main thing that I got to pay attention to here is what is the highest quality at really good levels. Okay. What can I buy right now that I can really do it a little bit more responsibly? Okay. And though that part of me that wants to go a little bit more risk appetite and go a little bit bigger because I've lost money and I want to make money back quicker, you know, I just got to do that on a little bit more certainty. And that's why I spoke about trend lines being a big thing. So let's go through my plays on current plan A on Bitcoin, right? So if we look at this over here, I'm actually going to clear up this chart here. Okay, so realize there's a lot of support. Okay, these highs here that we broke through, that's now support. Let's just make this a little bit of a straighter line over here. Let's get rid of that. Let's make this orange. Okay, there we go. So the previous high, if you look at normal structure, okay, you can see we did smash through a new high. We even broke this high on the left over here, right? Giving me a good idea the next time we get here, we should break through this wall, okay? This is all the support zone. So we're buying now, okay, and where the market's going to look to bounce, specifically for the bull's sake, right, is going to be this area over here, okay? The next thing that's also important is to know that we are still well in the trend, okay? So it's just giving us a good idea that this is where buying liquidity will be sitting, okay? And this is areas over here when it comes to us maybe doing a different scenario, maybe it wants to do this, right? That trend line over there will give me that warning. So again, if I look at the plays here and I look at the shorters busy shorting this area over here, okay? And I look at where's the next area. So if they break through there, where are we going next? It's very likely we're going over here. Okay, to the areas of around the $104,000 to $105,000 zone. Okay, and I look at where we are now. Okay, I got to put one simple question: risk to reward, right? I want to buy here. That line at the bottom tells me where to protect myself. Okay, and the trade that I'm looking for and the setup that I'm built up here is we do something like this, right? And ultimately, if I look at that and I say, okay, cool, let's look at that to that, I got to ask myself one question: is it a good trade? Right? Is it a good trade? Is my red way smaller than the green? And you can definitely see that why us buying this side and buying support will always give us the best risk to reward ratio. Because if I bought that side as an example, okay, that would have been my risk to reward ratio. Okay, so just being a little bit more patient and timing a little bit more, all that's done is just make sure that you lose less when you get it wrong. Right? And I think that's the main thing. If we can lose less and win more on our wins, obviously look how big that win is when it comes through. Okay, this is how you become a successful trader. And it's about the amount of times you're winning. It's about how much money you make on your wins versus your losses, right? So again, for me, this is quite an easy risk to reward ratio of I want to be printing longs. So the first long that I've been building is in BitFunded. It's over here. I'll give you guys the areas now of exactly what we're looking for here, because I do think there's going to be one more little pullback. I'm going to give you guys the tokens that I'm buying on BitFunded. I just went long over here. Okay, I got $100,000 accounts. I got to get this to $110,000 and I get to unlock $100,000 of real capital that I can 5x, right? So it gives me $500,000 of buying power when we get through that over there. Okay, now again, I can go try and, take from my portfolio and try to put my own 100K in, right? Or I can use $1,000 in these areas. And what's cool about this too is you can actually have multiple accounts, right? So you can only trade one live account at a time. So that means when you've passed and you got the real money, you can only trade one at a time, but doesn't mean you can't keep passing accounts, right? So ultimately, when you open an account, and let's say you can trade 5 accounts today, okay, and you can unlock them, there's no time limit on those accounts. The main thing is just to unlock them, that you have real money accounts sitting there, right? And you can have 20 of them all over there. So instead of me putting $20,000 of my own capital, I can look to try have, again, fail 40% of the challenges, no problem. But I can have 12 real accounts sitting there, and at any point, I need to make cash this year. I'm sitting with 12 $500,000 accounts, right? So all that I'm just doing is just learning to use a little bit less of my cash and use the tools that are around me, okay? So let's jump in over here and go through the game plans. For Solana, this is what I've been waiting for, right? I've been waiting for a inverse head and shoulders, where we hit the liquidity here, there's the head, there's the right shoulder, push to the upside, okay? There's a higher high that is in play over here, and this is what I'm paying attention to for a bounce. I'm looking for a bounce in these areas of these low 130s, as I've spoken for the last few days, and I'm then looking for a strong push up to the areas of around 160, even up to the 190. Okay, so again, if I look at areas of where I want to fish over here and where I want to protect myself, how do I look where to protect myself? Bottom trend line, okay? And I look at the reward, I can see the risk to reward ratio is sitting pretty good with Solana, right? Looking really good with Solana, looking really good with Bitcoin right now, as well as it's also looking really good with ETH, okay, over here too. So all I'm basically doing is when this market was moving up and then dropped and did this and this and this, the areas that we broke through, I never want to chase. I'm going to wait for them to come and retest, and that is where I want to enter my trades, right? If we go all the way back in Bitcoin's kind of history, and I just want to show you guys why waiting for supports are quite powerful, right? If you look at Bitcoin here and you look at the bull markets, right, type of vibes over here, you could just see that every time when we restarted the cycle, we broke out, we pushed down, that was turned into support, right? We broke up, we went down, that was turned into support, right? We broke up, we went down, that was turned into support, right? And this is the phase that we failed support, right? And that is where it caught a lot of the market off guard over here. And that one trend line was quite vital for that, because the moment we dropped that trend is when things started to shift. But the main thing is understand that support buys is the areas of where we are looking for entries. Now, the next thing that I'm looking at as well is I'm looking at now entering some trades for the week to make some money into the end of the week. I do need to pay attention to RSIs. So the main RSI that I want to pay attention to specifically today is the 4-hour, right? The 4-hour RSI for me is the important one. Because why? I'm looking for entries today, specifically on the Bitfunder challenge, right? To trade up for the next 2, 3, 4 days, take some profits, right? Because the thing is with the specifically leverage trading, shorter term trading, is to make money, get your money out, take a break, find the next good trade, and do that again, right? It's not about holding for too long and these type of things, okay? So again, I'm looking at a lot of the market over here, and I'm seeing support buys everywhere, right? Support buys on AVAX. These are all ones that I've spoken about over the last few days. Nonetheless, good opportunities. Now, before I continue with the short term, right, because I do think there'll be a nice little short-term pullback, we'll see, on Sol now. So we can get some nice Bitfunded entries with you guys as well to show you the setups. I do want to speak about the long term, right? I want to speak about the longer term approach over here, because I'm kind of tired of, sitting here and basically sitting and saying, how long is it going to be in this market, right? The truth of the matter is the market might want to range for months and months and months. Now, again, inside of that range, there's a lot of money to be made, right? Solana goes to $90, then goes to $150, and goes to $90, $150, $90, $150. There's a lot of percentages there that I can use to trade and make money. But ultimately, with the longer term approach as well, and looking at what are the longer term things that I can do right now, because I think it's a no-brainer if we zoom out and look at long term, right? Bitcoin, not too bad, but Bitcoin's stronger than the whole market, right? But if you just look at tokens in general, they're very, very, very good long-term entries, right? They're very strong long-term entries. I think what kind of puts us off is the short-term volatility, right? If you look at a few days and you're seeing 20% down on this and that, it gets quite exhausting, okay? So what I have done, and I spoke to you guys about this specifically in my altcoin play, I said that in this phase over here, okay, in this phase of this drop, I'm looking to build some longer term things that will keep me in the game, okay, and not let me manually exit. And I said that this is where I'm going to build bots, right? So remember, with bots, there's a link below. The only way you can see the bots, specifically my bots and the settings of these bots, okay, is by using the link. This is below in the description, just to show you guys where it is. Here it is, as well as seeing each individual bot that I've built. Now, we did bots last year, and the biggest mistake I made was not putting stop losses on them, and leverage was a little bit too high, right? So for me, I'm looking at a strategy that can make money in these phases without me having to do much, to monitor this, and to not get liquidated, right? Something more conservative. Now, bots make money in two ways, right? The first one is they make money on growth, right? So anything that grows up, it will make money, because what it does is it buys in this area over here, and it buys an entire area. And then there's a selling area. And there's many buys and many sells, right? So as price goes down, it's actually buying, it preserves cash and buys. And as it goes up into the green, it starts to sell, right? So firstly, you make money and profits on the percentages, okay? The second thing that you make money on is the getting in and out. You get two different types of profits, right? So to show you guys this over here, just jump in, there we go, right? You get this grid profit, which is this one over here, grid profit, okay? And then you get the trend profit, the percentage profit over here too, okay? So what I've done is I don't think the market, I'm confident enough to do shorter term bots, which means a month, 2 month type of bots. I think that part's still coming, okay? But I want to use bots to accumulate for the next couple of weeks to couple of months. And when the market goes up, I want them to take profits for me. I don't want to sit here anymore and manually make these decisions. I want to make them now where the charts are at now. Let it all do what it's got to do. So what I've created here is long-term 2x leverage bots. All that it does is it gives you double the money than what you have, okay? It allocates it slowly to buy to the downside. There is stop losses on these bots, which is very, very, very important, okay? And I just want this to play and accumulate cash for me. The amount of money that I've put in is around $27,000, $28,000 into these trades over here, okay? And this is what the trades that I've set over here. I've bought a Bitcoin bot. Well, not a bot, I've opened up a Bitcoin bot. I've opened up a Solana bot, a Ethereum bot, an AVAX bot, a Cardano bot is what I've opened, right? I'm going to be opening many more. Okay, but I want to show you guys the thesis of where I've based these bots. So I basically looked at the two big scenarios of Bitcoin, right? For me, Bitcoin will always continue to do the same sort of thesis where it's turning previous all-time highs into support. And the day that it stops doing that is when I get really worried about Bitcoin, right? So again, what does that do? It gives me an area of where to really protect myself, okay? But I've basically set this bot over here, where I've bought around 20% of the capital of Bitcoin right now, okay? And then I looked at the worst scenarios. I looked at Bitcoin drops down to $75,000, right? $73,000, it drops to those areas. And I basically put the bottom range of the bot, okay, at those areas over there. Therefore, what it's doing is it's saying, okay, you have, let's say $10,000 you're allocating, we're gonna buy 2,000 here, and the rest we're gonna put in limit orders all the way down over here. Right? Therefore, Bitcoin goes down, it's going to buy. And if your buy was here, it's going to slowly bring your average entry price down. Basically teaching you the basis of accumulating when things go down, right? Now, instead of me manually every week when Bitcoin's cheaper and cheaper, right, going and buying it myself, I just set a bot to do that. So the bottom of the range of my Bitcoin bot sitting around $75,000 to $77,000. I got a stop loss around $72,000 because that's where I think Bitcoin breaks a very big structure, okay? And I want to put a stop loss, and I think the stop loss is around 30%, 30 to 40%. What is the risk on that percentage-wise if I get stopped out, Maddie?
Yeah, you're hovering around about 33% roughly.
Amazing.
You know, every bot's slightly different, but all 5 bots, you're going to lose about 1/3 of your capital, you know, which is
amazing. Thank you, brother. Thank you. So again, now I know, okay, 30% is my risk of this capital. Obviously, upside's massively higher than that, but I won't now lose more than 50 or lose 100% of my capital. Okay, and again, if Bitcoin goes down to 60s, like, I'd rather open new bots there nonetheless, right? But here, I've set the bots for buying ranges. This is for more capital that I'm doing personally. What I'm happy with risking 30% for 100 to 200% growth, right? This is higher capital that I'm putting into play over here. There's the buying range over here, and that's the selling range. If Bitcoin decides to do this, the bot's going to make a lot of money off of grid trading, right? Because it's going to buy all of this, and it's going to sell all of this, and buy all of this, and sell all of this, right? So I'll make a lot of decent percentages just by the bot getting in and out, right? And again, if it goes down, it's accumulating for me, and if it goes up, it'll be selling me completely out. So there is my Bitcoin bot. I have not set it to $200,000 Bitcoin, these type of things. No, I just set it at the previous high, right? Previous high. If we break through, I'd rather be in cash and then decide, reevaluate, see if I want to open new bots nonetheless. But I don't need to think about a $200,000 Bitcoin. I just got to think between $70,000 and $126,000, what is the most profitable, okay, and protective way that I can do it without manually having to get in and out of the market and keeping my emotions at bay, right? So there is the Bitcoin one. Then we go to ETH. Here is my ETH bot. Now, again, ETH has some structure here for me. Okay, it has important levels. I don't want ETH to ever get back below $2,000. It's quite important, okay, specifically for ETH. So what I've done is I've set up my ranges. I got a range between $2,500 and $3,300 on ETH, which means I've bought ETH for the long term now, and I've bought around 20% of capital that I've allocated on ETH right now, right? Again, what am I doing? If this does this and breaks up, I can then take the bot, change the settings, and get the grid to go up here. And what I mean by that is, right now it's bought 20 or 30% right now, okay? But let's say in a few weeks' time now that only 30% got in and the market takes off, right? Then at least I can be like, okay, the market has really broken structure. It's bullish again, right? We're back to bull market vibes. Now I can take this and I can move it up here and accumulate the rest of the 70% that did not get in, accumulated in these areas now, okay, for the break of the all-time highs. But as it stands, we're not promised that, right? We're probably looking at a very much a range market. Look at what this market did before it went bull. Before, ETH was sitting at $1,400, and then it went to 5K again over a year or two, right? But this is what happened first, right? This. Okay, and I want to play that range. I want to play those games over there. So again, when it comes to the ETH bot, that is my setup. There is it. I do have a higher high. Bitcoin, I never made a higher high. Why? Because I think the Bitcoin dominance is overbought. So I do think ETH will outperform to the upside as long as a lot of altcoins. Okay, so I have set a slightly higher high, but I have not set a $10,000 ETH. Set a $5,500 ETH, right? As we go down here and we look at things like Sol, this is the Sol bot that I've set, right? Sol has kept this level of this $90 all the way since 2023. For me, it's quite a critical level. Okay, so I've set from $142, okay, to $90. Okay, I've set a bot that will accumulate in this area, and I have $310, which is basically the high, okay, of where I'd basically be out in a lot of profits, okay, to the upside. Again, the scenario that can play out, right, type of thing over here. Anywhere down here is very bad. So therefore, stop loss sits in this area over here. And again, that's a 33 to 35% calculation of that over there, right? So here's the buying range. Here's the selling range. Risk to reward is so much bigger, right, to the upside. So that's why I'm looking at the Sol bot. Then what I have as well is AVAX bot, which I think is one of the biggest opportunities in the market, right? I look at this. As an investor, you're drooling, right? There's my buys, even to lower than what it's ever been before. Well, not ever. It's been here in 2020. It's been here before. I have the bottom at $7, right? Buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it, and I have the top at $40 over here. I have a stop loss in play, right? Amazing. The stop loss is pretty much lower than what it's been in a very, very, very long time, So I got an AVAX bot in play. I have a Cardano bot in play. These are literally there. This is a 2026 strategy for me to keep these in for majority of the year, right? The only time they basically get out, okay, is if a TP is out, or I decide to move my ranges up, or I get stopped out. That's it, right? There's nothing more here for me to do than for these things to roll throughout the year, okay, and then give me time to really focus on trading on the shorter time approach and things like that, okay? And then do I have a Doge bot? And I have a Doge bot as well. So these bots are not set up for all-time high breaks. They're set to use where we are right now as opportunity, okay, and setups. So again, what that looks like is it looks like this over here, where you go into your Pionex. You have this section over here called the long-term 2x leverage section, okay? And this is all of them with the grids, with everything, a nice little percentage ratio, everything set up, everything done. So if you want these exact settings, right, you click on the link over here, you click on this link, okay? You click on this specific link over here, okay? You say, I want to copy this bot, and all that it does is it takes the settings and puts them on your account. Remember, it's your account, your cash there, but it takes the settings that I have for that specific one. Instead of you having to figure out and do it all yourself, there they are set for you guys, ready to rock and roll. So again, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be accumulating a lot. I'm probably going to build up to about 20 altcoin positions, okay, with 30% risk in total, 30 to 35% in total. But these things can roll for the year and make me money on the side and keep it. Again, when I brought bots to you, I did believe it's the most powerful thing, and I still do, okay? The only thing was I did not expect markets to drop 90% in one day, which was crazy, but it happened, right? And stop losses became a very big, powerful thing. So now stops go. This is still, for me, one of the most exciting things within the market that keeps you in the game and keeps going nice and strong. So we have the bot section. Now, let's get into some trades, okay? The trades that I'm looking for here, you've got two scenarios. So what I've started doing, okay, is I have started, obviously, the Bitfunded entries. So remember with Bitfunded, we have here, just want to show you guys the challenges. So the challenge that I have entered today is this one over here, which is the $1,000 package. Okay, so I pay $1,000. I got to pass one step, okay, and then I get traded $100,000 on a 5x, and I get to keep 90% of the profits. I'm here to tell you guys, I've passed the challenge, I've brought the money out, and I've spent the money. So it's real, right? Which is amazing, okay? But this is all of this over here, so it doesn't matter which package it suits, okay? The big thing for me is instead of me putting $100,000 of my own capital in, I get 100 lives by doing it this way. So if we put $100,000 in and losing that, you know, markets get crappy, right? I have 100 accounts, okay, which gives me a way better chance of winning and getting to success. But yet I get to trade with the same amount of capital, right? So the first step that I have to do now, I just want to show you guys this over here, right, is I need to pass the first level. So the first level for me, okay, is I need to make $10,000 to pass stage 1, okay, and then stage 2 is live, and I get to trade with the capital. The big thing with Bitfunded is it's going to calculate your losses. That's the big thing that it's going to do. It's going to tell you you can't lose more than 4% in one day, and you can't lose more than 6% in total, okay, which means that the main time when I'm opening longs or shorts, I need to make sure that the risk is incredibly low, okay, every trade that I enter. So the trade for me on Sol, okay, is these bounce zones, is these areas here where I've been looking for is between this 134 and 135 is my entry zones, okay? I have put a stop loss nice and tight under this low over here in case it wants to go down a bit more, okay? And my trigger signals is there's two ways. You don't have to pick the low right now. So what I did, just to show you guys into the trade here, is I only put in 17% of the capital, right? So if we look at how much money I still have, I basically put in $22,000 of the 100K, okay? And I'm still sitting with $78,000 in cash, right? Why? Because I'm looking at an entry here that I'm thinking we're going to bounce. But the confirmation for me is going to be this trend line. And it's basically telling me that this market is going to probably bounce now, probably drop off, and we're probably looking at breakouts in the next 24 hours. And that for me will be the trigger point, because where we are right now can definitely be a strong bounce zone, right? This is where we want to see the market bounce, but the trend line is the thing for me that basically confirms that. And it's telling me that we ain't too far away, that if the bears don't break this level in a certain amount of time, okay, and we end up breaking the trend, the bulls are going to go for it again, right? And my risk is here, and my reward is obviously a lot bigger of where we're looking at. So as we go through a bunch of the tokens, here's an example of AVAX, right? There's an idea of where we think we can bounce, right? And then there's the confirmation, right? So I'm just entering small amounts of where I think we're going to bounce. And I told you guys 134 to 135 on SOL, stop loss around 133.5, okay? And then here's an example on AVAX. There's the trend. Also telling you in the next couple of hours, either the next 12 hours, okay? I'll be really paying attention next 12 hours for entries from about 10 to 12 hours from now. Let's actually see. How many hours from now? Yeah, anywhere between 10 and 14 hours, right? The trend breaks, this is what I want to get. And again, why I like the trends, because we're probably going to break, push up, go, stop losses nice and tight. Nice and tight, right? And again, if I look at the capital, like let's say, for example, now, so let's go in over here, and we can see that I am basically $100,000 long. Right, I've only used 20% of the money, but I'm $100,000 long, right? And let's go back here to the SOL trade here. Where do I need Solana to go to pass the challenge, right? So the key here is this push to the upside over here. Let's see the percentage. So if we go up a nice little percentage over here, it's 1.2. So I'll make $1,500, let's say, if it goes there. I can get out, okay? And then look for the re-entry on the pushback over here. I'm personally not. I got a bit of a busy schedule, so I don't have time to get in and out too much, okay? But what I'm looking for is for us to go up here, come back down, and when we break here, I'm then looking to probably add another $20,000 into the position, times 5, so another 100K, which means I need then a 5% move. So just back to the top over here at $142, and my Bitfunder challenge is passed. Then I ain't gonna chase. I'm going to wait for it to do this or do something else. And then I have real capital to get into the position. And then I have $500,000 to go long, right, with my $1,000. Okay. So the opportunity you could see here on, let's say, Cardano. Cardano actually looks sweet. This one's closer to breaking out, right? Keep that in mind. Okay. So we have an idea now. I've entered on an idea, but I'm only entering 10, 20%. When we break the trends is the time for me then to really allocate and to push through and to also move up stops of previous entries, right? But you could see here, instead of like trying to put yourself under pressure of making money in the next hour, just really time for the next 12 hours because your entries are coming. And then what's very likely is next entries will be 3 days later and 3 days later, right? So rather pay attention to when is the right time to enter trades when risk is really good versus trying to trade all the time, right? And things like that. And the same thing with Bitfunder. I can lose a challenge, but my one win is worth 20 of the Bitfunder accounts, right? I've just done it, right? It's very, very, very cool. So as you go through here, you can get these setups and all of them are on supports right now for nice breaks to the upside, okay? But for me, the confirmation is the major trends. Guys, who wants, as I'm explaining, who wants a Bitfunder? I will give you guys, let's give away 5. Okay, it will be 2 steps. So remember, you get 2 different types here of the challenges. Okay, and remember, guys, when you open up a challenge, use the link below so you can get into the Sniper Club section, right, for Bitfunder. Because that is where I'm doing the challenge. We're going to set the dates. It's very likely we start next week with the challenge, 7-day challenge. Everyone, we're going to trade to pass Bitfunder challenges and show you how we can unlock the liquidity, right? But if you look at when you want to get a challenge, you have 1 step and 2 step. The 2 steps are cheaper. So $80 basically for the first one, okay, which means you've got to pass 2 levels to unlock the capital, okay, versus the 1 step, which instead of 80 is 100, and you get the 1 step. So you can choose what suits your there. For me, I'd rather pass 1 step than 2, okay? And that's where I set up this over here and get going. Why am I talking so much about this on the show? I literally bought stuff with it last week. It worked. It worked great. Like, it's cool. For me, it's like, woo, I don't have to put so much money on the line anymore, right? In a market that's so damn uncertain and so all over the place, I don't have to chase and do these things. This helps me a lot more, right? And that's what it's about this year, looking at tools that really pay attention. So as we go down the routes over here, you could see that there can still be a little bit more downside within the alts, but we are definitely coming into support. So here's 𝗬𝗏. I'm looking at a bounce to $2 at any point. Right? Why am I paying attention to, let's say, Bitfunded, bots, all these type of things? I'm trying to do whatever I can, right, to accumulate and build on this side of the line. Now, remember what the trend lines are doing. When the market was moving and up there and it does this, and then it dropped and now it's over here, right? This is where the red emotions come into play. Okay, this is where the depressing emotions come into play. And then this side is where the green emotions come into play. The key is not to pre-enter too early. This is a very hard stage unless you are super patient for the long term. It's a hard stage to get through. Okay, this is an area you don't want to be buying, right? So again, the trend line for me tells you when is the right time to come into trades and markets. And that's why the trend is important, because it gets you ready for the green side to be looking for entries. So if I can see that we are starting to approach this trend over here, okay, I'm then looking to, okay, what can I do here to build so that I can really, really, really make sure that I take advantage when we're on that side of the line, right, over here. And that's why for me, if we go back to 𝗬𝗏 now, and we just zoom in here, 𝗬𝗏 ain't too far. So if I can use this to pass the challenge, and I can have all that money on this side of the line when it wants to start going up again, that's how I'm playing the game. If I can use this stage over here to build my bots and accumulate, and on this side it's starting to sell, right, I'm playing the game, right? And these are all different things of why, for me, I'm just looking at what tools are going to make me stay in the game right now and what tools are going to make it easy and protect my mental space as well, right? And protecting capital is the #1 thing over here too. So as long as you have structure and idea and a system of what you're doing, right, you will then see which altcoin is the sexiest one for you to do, right, and the best ones for you to pay attention to. The one token that is tanking hard right now, okay, and remember, I did speak about it. I spoke about this very big flag, right, and I do think we are going to get this areas of $330 on Zcash. I heard there's some FUD on it. FUD is scary, but you've got to realize that, isn't it weird when there's biggest FUD, we bounce, right? So yes, there's redness, but bounces come after FUD, right? There's a big flag that's in play here. So a token that we're getting ready once we're confident, I'm going to launch some bots on this, but even entries on this as well, is Zcash. I'm not touching it right now. I'm not interested right now, right? I see a bounce, I see a drop, but something for next week to pay attention to if we start getting to low 300s is the ZK dump. And I don't want to speak about it if you're in it. I still think it's strong and good, okay? But there's a big flag here. And realistically, it's telling us February, March is when we'll very likely go to the higher ends or maybe new highs and things like that. What else is dropping quite aggressive in this market? We got Pump Fund. Pump broke out. Guys, into that support. Good areas for spot buys if you like Pump Fund. Right, so accumulate, accumulate, accumulate. When do you leverage trade it? Again, you pop it over here. You put these trends in. That's when you look for entries. Let it bounce, let it go up, let it go sideways. That is where you're looking for. Buy, stop loss, go, right? Pump, mid-range, take profits. Specifically, leverage trades. Let's go through the rest. Maddie, are we going to give away some Bitfunders, brother? Who's commenting the most like crazy? Who's here every day? I want those who are here every day. Now, names that you see every day that support and fight through and push through every single time. Tell me, who are those people? Is this one of them? Prince, you get a Bitfunded. Email below. In the description, email us. We'll give you a Bitfunded challenge, brother. Okay, next. 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏, am I saying it right? 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. Please let me know how to say it correctly. Nonetheless, you get a Bitfunded challenge. More. Been here since 2021. Maddie, Please give this person a BitFunded challenge. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it so much. I really do. Next one. Hobby Horizons. Yes, BitFunded. Next one. Here's one more. I think it said ABC. It's ACB. Yes, you get a BitFunded challenge. Guys, remember, biggest opportunities for you today. Bots, BitFunded, and the number one opportunity is Sniper Club. It is a free group. It costs you nothing, and it's been one of the most powerful tools for you in the space, right? Calls, live tradings, main thing, education, community, everything is there for you guys. Join. Let's lift our spirits up. A lot of exciting things coming for the year. Keep your heads nice and strong, and let's go. So again, recap, I'm in a Solana trade between 134 and 135 is my entry. 133 is my stop loss. I'm only 15 to 17% in on the position. There's a trend line to break in the next 12 hours. I'm looking to enter more in that area over there. Need a pop to the recent highs, and my first account is unlocked, giving myself 500,000. What I'm then doing is, we're not going to stop passing challenges for the next couple of weeks. Even if I pass this one, I got real money, I'm going to pass more and more and more. The key is to be like, oh, market's dumping. I just ripped my one BitFunded account. Oh, I got 15 unlocked accounts already. And the thing is with Bitfund is it only allows you to trade one live account at a time. When you realize that this tool is here to teach you risk and to not wreck you, because imagine it lets you trade all 15 and then you blow up all 15. No, one at a time, right? It protects you. It protects you. Very powerful. So guys, have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow. More BitFundeds, more this. Heads up high, look for opportunity, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.